Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's great to see you. This is a reading for Cancer sun signs, or if you have significant Cancer placements in your chart and are needing a masculine energy to work with or balance within yourself, then this reading is for you. So Cancer, I haven't pulled your cards yet, but there were a lot of messages coming in for you before I even sat down to do this reading. So I'm just putting them out there before I pull the cards because I don't want the messages in the cards to distract the message that wants to come through for you before the reading happens. So there's so much. So first of all, I was being drawn to this like tiny little blue lace agate crystal that I have. So blue lace agate is really good for soothing and calming communication. So I was getting kind of like this energy of like feeling like a tightness in my throat, which it was coming through as being sort of like a difficult emotion. I feel like that perhaps is difficult to express in some way, or that it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it like that, like some like an emotion that's difficult to express, or that there's like some sort of like translation or misunderstanding about something. It could be within a relationship, it could be within yourself as well. Because I was kind of also getting like this energy of like two people misunderstanding one another. And of course that can come in Mercury retrograde energy as well, because Mercury is the planet for communication. And because I was getting kind of like the energy of like trying to send a message to someone, but sending it in just like a string of emojis. So there's no actual but that it is communicating a message, but perhaps the message is like there's a concern about whether or not the message is being received, or that the person would understand what it is that is trying to be conveyed. So that's sort of like the overall like message that was coming through. Also, before the reading, I was just sort of like taking a break after eating lunch, and I was on my phone, like looking at something that I was like planning for the future. And I heard this like bird calling so loudly, like I was in my house. But outside the house, there was a bird calling. And so, I went outside to go see what kind of bird it was, because it was so loud. It must have been like just outside the window, and it was a cardinal, which if you don't have cardinals in your area, it's this really bright red beautiful bird that I often see in the wintertime, but of course we're getting into spring, and so whenever things like that happen, right, usually we interpret that as spiritual people as being sort of like a sign. And so I Googled it. Of course, signs mean very personal things, but this time I Googled it, and there were a whole bunch of different things that sign could represent, right? And so it was coming through with this energy of like, what is like your first sort of instinct, like if you weren't to Google it, what would be your first interpretation of that sign, if that makes sense? And that might be sort of an indication of like what your emotional state is, right? Like what your first instinctual response is to that sign. Like, oh, I'm seeing a bird that's singing. What does that mean? Like what does that feel like? Or what emotion does that bring up in me, or something like that. But I feel like there's something in there about like, be conscious of that first instinctual response, because it may be that there's a misinterpretation there, because it could be that there's something new that's wanting to come in, or a new way of expressing oneself, or it was coming through as like a new emotion, like, or a new feeling, something that perhaps is different than what you're used to, or is like a new, could be idea, like just something, it's something new that perhaps is not easy to at first interpret because it's not within whatever your established way of being or established way of feeling. And so this is what this, I feel like it's coming through as being sort of like being, because this blue lace agate is a very it's slowing down the communication is kind of how it's coming through today, in a way to make it more clear, because it is kind of like there was one post I was reading about this crystal where it says that relative to other crystals, it could be more slow in terms of like it's not as quote unquote high vibrational. But I feel like that's part of the energy, especially if you're feeling anything like anxiety or anything that's quote unquote how people say low vibrational, but I don't think that that's the correct term for it. But anyways, sidetrack. I feel like this is talking about like not jumping to conclusions and not necessarily taking the first interpretation of what you would normally interpret a message or a sign or whatever, or something like that, because it could be that there's something new coming in, or that your guides, or however you communicate with spirit or the universe, whatever your language is for that there's like a new emotion or a new experience or a new idea that's trying to be expressed or put into words in some way, that you're being asked to pay attention to. And especially with the word cardinal, right? Like cardinal is the name of the bird, but cardinal also in Australian, I don't know, maybe some of you live in Australia, in astrology represents like the cardinal signs, which is Cancer, right? Cancer, Aries, and we're in Aries season at the moment. Mercury retrograde is happening in Aries, so that's an important energy for you, Cancer, which is your square. And then Capricorn and Libra are also cardinal signs. And to me, the cardinal signs represents like starting something new, or introducing new energy, right? Like it's the start of a new season, that kind of thing. But because you're the cardinal water sign, it's talking about like it was coming through as new emotion. Like you're perhaps navigating through a new emotion or a new emotional season in some aspect of your life, maybe. Anyways, it's been 8 minutes for this section. I'm gonna pause here. That's just like the overall messages that were coming through before the reading. I'm gonna pause, I'm gonna pull the cards, and then we're gonna get into the reading part. All right, Cancer, let's get started with your reading. So we're going to start at the bottom of the deck. We have here the raccoon and the elephant. And the one card that I pulled from this deck overall is the vulture, which talks about like a purification process or cleaning something out of your space, your energy, whatever this is for you. It talks to me about like sort of like a transmutation process, right? Because vultures, or in the book, this card is described by like vultures sort of like ingest toxic elements that are in the environment and transforms them into something new. So it's kind of coming through like that maybe there's sort of like a transformation process happening. In terms of here with the raccoon and the elephant's such an interesting card because it talks to me about sort of like clearing blockages, but at the same time, if you're going down a path that perhaps is not in your best interest or that kind of thing, that the universe will put blockages in your way to sort of steer you in the right direction. So you may be experiencing things like that, where there's maybe just like things that are interrupting your path forward, perhaps steering you in a different direction. But in that sort of being steered somewhere else, you may be experiencing things or seeing things or signs or things like that, like the Cardinal, that's bringing you out of whatever energy that you were currently in, especially with this raccoon here, because this talks about someone who is very talented in some way or has some sort of gift or skill, but is in the shadows in some way, or like perhaps reluctant or hesitant to share that. Could be shyness or something like that. So that could be the energy that's being transformed, and you may actually be being like pushed in a direction of like out of the shadows, so to speak, or like bringing something out into the open is kind of how it's coming through. And with this card at the bottom of the deck, you have here the Sylvanus card, which talks about it was talking about identity, or like, hold on. I want to read from the book for this one, because it was coming through with a message that I don't normally get with this card. So anyways, I'll just read parts of it. So it says, at this time, I'll hold it up. At this time, you're discovering new truths about yourself. They are essential for you to know in order to create relationships based on mutual respect, affection, and trust. These things can only work if we see ourselves and others as we are. Currently, both fairy and this world are functioning as a giant mirror in which we see ourselves in many surprising ways. People tend to dread this because we assume that we are worse than we think we are, but this is far from necessarily true. Now is a time for finding out the false and misleading beliefs you have accepted and discovering that you are a better person than you thought and have the potential to accomplish more than you believed you could. If someone says you are better or simply different than you think you are, don't automatically reject this. Think it over carefully. You have more to give and more to enjoy than you have been giving yourself credit for. So I feel like there's something about that, like something about perhaps the way that you think you are that might be false because it's like more negative or lesser than or not as good as you think it is, maybe. And so this energy is coming through as like, you may be experiencing things where like it's pushing you to share more of your gifts, or to, I don't know, be seen in a particular way or something like that. Especially with these cards at the bottom of the deck. So you have here the 9 of Swords and the 9 of Wands. And so this 9 of Swords talks to me about anxiety that you can experience or discomfort that you might experience from being seen in a particular way, right? Like feeling vulnerable about being seen in a particular way, whatever that way is for you. And with the 9 of Wands, this card talks to me about like hurts perhaps, or wounds perhaps, that are like quote unquote small, like a paper cut, right? Relatively to other potential things that might happen, a paper cut is a relatively small wound, right? But over time, let's say if you get a paper cut in the same area over and over again, that could lead to a much bigger problem. So it's kind of coming through as being like maybe an area in your life where you received a lot of criticism, or just like small wounds, quote unquote, not necessarily life-threatening or potentially damaging in that way, but over time, the cause or the outcome of that like constant small woundings over time can lead to a bigger problem. So it could be related to that. Take it how it resonates. But anyway, that's the overall context. The first couple cards, though, you have here is the Singer of Courage and List of the Shadows. So these two cards are talking about, both of them were coming through as like breaking through some sort of self-limiting belief that you might have, and in terms of perhaps like how you see yourself, perhaps in a negative or self-critical or self-judgmental kind of way, and breaking through that, because that might be something that is perhaps keeping you from sharing your gift in whatever way that is with others who may benefit from that. So I feel like there's like a purification process happening in that sense. The first 3 cards that you have out today, so you have here the High Priestess, which of course is your energy today, Cancer. It's really interesting. The colors red and blue are really significant for you. But it's because it's bringing the energy of the Cardinal, which is red, and then this little blue lace agate, which is blue. But there's something about like the effect of singing very loudly, whatever that is for you, because I feel like maybe there's somebody who's perhaps hesitating in sharing something, or that they're like taking extra care in sharing something that perhaps could be beneficial, or that will actually have an effect, is kind of it could potentially have a big effect, is kind of how it's coming through. It's also coming through like this of like so there's 3 major arcana: the High Priestess, the Temperance card, and the Justice card. So it could be Sagittarius Libra energy that's important. Because this is your energy, I feel like this is maybe 2 others. It doesn't have to be like that though, but it could be that it could be like 2 significant friends or something like that. But the Temperance card talks to me about like letting something go in order to receive something new. It also is talking about transmutation as well. And it's also like the balance between red and blue. It's so interesting. I had this vision of like 3 energies, I'm just gonna call it. 2, like one was red, one was blue, and one was yellow. Coming together in some way, and it was significant. So maybe I don't know who you are in this dynamic, Cancer. Take it how it resonates. But it's kind of like there may be 3 energies that are coming together in some way that is significant in order to break through some sort of like whatever that is. But you have here the 3 of Pentacles coming out beside the Justice card. So it could be that you're building something together or collaborating together in some way. Again, it may feel kind of like, Cancer, maybe you're feeling like, I don't know, there's some sort of like self-limiting belief that has to do with this collaboration maybe, or like what it is that you can contribute. Because the next cards are kind of tough, or not tough, but they're, anyways, you have here the 6 of Pentacles and the 3 of Cups, which is interesting. Because this energy sometimes comes through as gossip. Both of these cards can come through with that energy, especially with this like spilling the tea on something. So just be aware of that. I feel like that's like, we don't want to get into like gossip territory, right? That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. However, there may be that energy that's somehow present or relevant in some way to what it is that you're going through, Cancer. Like, But the thing about this kind of energy, right? Like, so what is gossip? It's like, or spilling the tea on something. It's like some, like, communicating information, again with the blue lace agate, communicating information about something that could be potentially it just needs to be communicated with a lot of care and compassion and kindness. So for it to not be something that's gossipy, if that makes sense. However, there is sort of a purpose in sharing information of that sort, if that makes sense. There is a purpose to it, especially in terms of like collaboration, right? If you're trying to collaborate with someone, or that there's collaboration, whatever, it's like, how do we communicate perhaps something that has happened that's like, could be potentially harmful without it turning into gossip or slander or misinformation, that kind of thing. And so this energy is coming in to sort of temper that, right? To like be very cautious about what is being said, how it's being said, who it's being said to, and what the intention is behind what's being said, I guess. It kind of is coming through that way. But I feel like, so there may be some sort of like breaking through some sort of self-limitation, or like something about what you know with the High Priestess, like your intuition and knowingness. There could also be something here about like, maybe you just know something intuitively and it's difficult to put into words, or if you were to explain it in words, it might not be received in the way that you intended it, right? There is always a possibility for misinterpretation or misunderstanding. And so like maybe there's something here about just like trusting that you will be able to convey the proper message that is loving and kind and helpful and ultimately positive, and it's not coming from this place, if that makes sense. Anyways, there's something here about so the next card out is the Himself card, which is a very masculine energy. This card talks about, like, I feel like this is something that perhaps you're having, or you're considering taking action on, Cancer, which talks about becoming more of yourself in terms of perhaps like some sort of action you're needing to take. It does require like courage is how it's coming through. Breaking through some sort of like self-limiting belief that you might have about whatever this action is that perhaps is difficult or will require a lot of conscious awareness. It's also bringing in a lot of sort of balancing energy, especially with the vulture, right? Something about like a death and rebirth energy that might be tricky to navigate through, or that because it kind of comes through. I feel like you're the vulture energy today, Cancer, of like perhaps you are being asked to do a job that is unpleasant in some way, or that is it's just not pleasant. It's not pleasant. Whatever this is, like cleaning up some sort of mess. Whether or not that's your mess or somebody else's, I have no idea, but it's like cleaning up some sort of mess in order to like cleanse an energy, whatever that is. I feel like though perhaps you're being asked to do that. Anyways, because there's something here next about the Four of Pentacles. So this card talks to me about like keeping something locked down for now. Perhaps maybe that's sort of like you're considering it or you're in this stage, especially if there's like discomfort about a way in which you may perhaps be perceived in this. It's kind of like, okay, well, for now we're just going to wait. I feel like that's okay for the moment. This may also be somebody else who, but I feel like maybe Cancer, it's you. Or this is just showing me sort of a vibration of like your very solid state with the Four of Pentacles, right? It's like stable, earthly energy. But I feel like there's something here with the Judgment card coming out next that's calling you out of a comfort zone, perhaps. Because I'm seeing this as the energy of the Cardinal. Because what the Cardinal was representing to me, that I'm conveying to you, is that it was calling me out of a comfort zone, right? Like I actually had to physically go outside to see what it was that was calling, right? So maybe that you're having to leave a particular place or energy in order to answer this call, whatever that is, or to see what it is that's on the other side of this fence. I feel like, though, it has something to do with emotions, because you have here the Queen of Cups coming out underneath the Four of Pentacles. Again, it feels kind of like a new emotion that perhaps you are being asked to discover or navigate through. It was kind of coming through like spectrum of colors, right? Like, because we all see, well, I don't know, not everyone sees the same colors, but we all have sort of like an understanding of the spectrum, right? From red to purple. But imagine if there was like another color that hasn't been discovered yet, another emotion, a new emotion, Cancer, that I feel like you're sort of discovering or sitting in, is kind of how it's coming through. And you're being asked to work with that in some way because you are the cardinal water sign. There's something about like a new emotion coming through that I feel like is significant, or something like that. And it's I feel like it's leading into this energy, because this is the Eight of Pentacles coming out next. This to me talks about creating something. So creating something, a work of art or whatever it is that you're working on, that has to do with this emotion in some way, like giving voice to it or expressing it in whatever way your form of expression is. And it's also leading to the Magician and the Chariot. So the Chariot is also your card, right? It's like what your particular magic, Cancer. I feel like there's something here, because I feel like it's part of this as well, because this card talks about a guardian or protector. And for me, Cancer energy is so interesting, where it's like Cancers can get so protective about the people that they love and they care for, right? Like, will fight for anyone that they care for and love very deeply. But when it comes to like themselves, can maybe just like let things slide or that kind of thing. So maybe it's something like defending yourself or something like that, or like standing up for yourself, right? Like becoming more of yourself. Perhaps it has to do with like other people that you love or that kind of thing. But to me, this is looking to me like it's about you. Perhaps like something that happened to you, or something where like you experienced, I don't know, some sort of gossipy energy or something like that, or like whatever that was, and defending yourself against that, or but perhaps there's fear or anxiety about like being seen in a particular way. Anyways, I feel like there is something here about like your particular gifts or your magic or something like that, because the last card here is the Ten of Pentacles. This card talks about being, it's kind of like an energy of being in a vibration that never changes, or that's very stable, or just like repeats over and over again. It's kind of coming through as being in like a time loop, or like the energy doesn't change. It's very stable. So maybe there's something here about like, because both of these cards are representing like a changing energy, that maybe Cancer, there's something that you can bring into the situation that would change a situation for somebody else or a group of others, or that would transform or change this sort of like repeating time loop kind of energy. But I feel like Cancer, at the moment, you may be in this state with the raccoon of like being shy, or not being quite sure about sharing what it is that you know. I feel like it is something that you know intuitively, but perhaps there's doubt, or it just is coming through as being like anxiety about being seen in a particular way, that perhaps like in the past you encountered a lot of difficulty or criticism or whatever this energy is, the Nine of Wands, like repeated insults or wounding or criticism or judgment about. I don't know what that is. That'll be specific to each person. But anyways, Cancer, that was a long reading. So I'm going to leave it there. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can find the link in the description box. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.